It's showtime.
Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock. Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
They're coming to get you, Barbara. They're coming for you, Barbara.
What is up, my witches and warlocks? It's Booger Kai here, and welcome back to another Halloween video. This is my second Halloween video of the season. I really appreciate you guys for checking out my first one, which was when I decorated my room for Halloween. But this video, we're going to be kind of just kicking off a theme here for my videos, where I'm just going to be talking about some horror movies. But today, I have a real treat for you guys, because today, I'm going to be looking back at 80s horror movies and comparing them to their remakes. Horror remakes have this kind of bad reputation out there that they're just copiers of their original movies. Which more often than not, you're true. But I feel like for some movies, if you put that behind you, I feel like you can just watch it and find it entertaining for what it is. I said there was exceptions. So today we're going to be comparing 5 movies. But without further ado, let's go through 80s horror remakes and compare them to their original. But let's start off with a banger. Start with John Carpenter's Halloween, a movie that everybody's going to be watching this Halloween season, and compare it to the not-so-loved Rob Zombie sequel. Now, John Carpenter's Halloween from 1978 is an instant classic. I think everybody can agree on that. Without Halloween, we wouldn't have these other slasher movies like Friday the 13th that was inspired by it. Okay, and I understand some of the complaints about the movie, but to just say it's boring and has no story, you're completely wrong, dude. I have an entire horror fandom to back me up. But now let's look into the similarities between the two. First off, it has the exact same premise. So you have this really messed up kid that gets himself into a mental hospital for killing his sister. And then after 15 years, he escapes on Halloween and goes on a teenage murdering rampage, stalking one girl, Laurie Strode, and killing everyone associated with her. Both of these films have the exact same premise, even if they're played out differently. Another thing is that they both start with young Michael Myers. Though Rob Zombie's Halloween goes into the lore of Michael Myers, we'll get into that in a minute. And finally, both of the films don't give Michael Myers a reason to kill. Of course, we should know by now that Laurie Strode and Michael Myers are siblings, but also like the second John Carpenter Halloween movie, we don't find that out until the sequel. The only motive we really get in this movie is that Laurie Strode just stepped onto Michael's property. He took that personally, and he just decided to go stalk her and kill every single one of her friends. Like, Michael has no chill in these movies. Alright, now let's go along with the differences. Number one is, the kills in this movie are very different. The Rob Zombie movie is so much bloodier and gorier and extra with the kills, while John Carpenter's Halloween only had 5 kills and not much blood. Don't get me wrong, that one kill where Michael just stabs the teenage boy with the knife through the wall, that is sick. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying Rob Zombie, he had a way better idea with the kills. Even though Rob Zombie's Halloween isn't as good as the original, Rob Zombie knew he had to up the ante somehow. Even Rob Zombie knew he couldn't replace the original, but he just wanted to up the ante. So he did that by making the kills better. Which I'll admit, the kills make this movie a lot better. Like, you're seeing some of these things that, like, Michael's doing to the bullies, that he's doing to his sister's boyfriend, and that he eventually does to a stepfather. Like, that's just brutal, man. Like, I could not watch that when I was a kid. Another difference is that in Rob Zombie's Halloween, we get more Michael lore. We just get to see a little Michael side of things, because, like, in the original, we just kind of just saw him kill his sister, you know? Like, it's no reason, just decided to get up and kill his sister. But in this one, we get kind of like a motive, like his family life wasn't that great. Like, he had a somewhat abusive stepfather, his mother was a stripper, and his sister was just, you know, mean. And it's also obvious that he had some mental problems too. But that other stuff just made him snap. So that's why I find Little Michael and Rob Zombie's movie a little bit more interesting. The final difference is that there's 30 extra minutes of Michael kills. The original Halloween runtime was 1 hour and 31 minutes. Rob Zombie's Halloween movie was 2 hours and 1 minute. So we just get more Michael killing people, we get more story, which I can appreciate. But at the end of the day, there's no way in heck you're going to surpass the original. It just had such an impact on horror genre and people. Like, some people are hardcore horror fans because of John Carpenter's Halloween. Alright, next, we're going to be comparing the Friday 13th films. Now, I might get a little guff for this, but I prefer the 2009 remake over the original. It's just way more bloodier, and Jason is actually in it. I just feel like it's more faster paced with the kills, with Jason, with everything. Because like I said in my ranking of the Friday 13th films, the first one, you really not really doing much until the kills happen. And until that edge of your seat final act of that first film, you're not really into it, really. And I'm not speaking for everyone. Everyone has different opinions. I'm just saying, without that final act, without the final twist that Pamela Voorhees is the killer in the first one, it wouldn't be where it is. You hate most of the characters in Friday 13th, 2009, but that's why it gets your attention when they get killed. Like, you start to feel like if you don't pay attention, then you're gonna miss something. Jason is easily the best part of this movie, and he made it worth the 6-year wait. Jason delivered, this movie pretty much delivered, and just everything about it is more just complex than the original. So that's why I just like it more. But I will say, I like the jump scare better in the original, and the score in the original is also really better. But other than that, I can't really say much about the original. It just wasn't for me, and I know a lot of people feel the same way. Alright, next, let's look at a set of movies that were based off a book by the king of horror himself, Stephen King, and that is Pet Sematary. And we're going to be looking at the film from 1989 and 2019. Now, other than a couple of changes, the 1989 original and the 2019 remake are pretty much the same thing. One of the obvious changes from the remake is that Gage is no longer the one who dies and comes back to life, it's Ellie. Also, the ending to the remake is a little different, but other than that, you pretty much have the same story. You have a family who just moved into a new house because the dad, Louis Creed, got another job as a doctor. They quickly befriend their new neighbor, Judd Crandall. Judd brings Louis and his family down a path by the house that leads to a pet cemetery. And beyond that pet cemetery is an Indian burial ground. Louis starts seeing a ghost warning him never to go beyond the pet cemetery. But things start getting really twisted when the family cat Church gets run over by a truck and dies. Judd knows Louis's daughter will be traumatized by this, so he brings Louis up to beyond the pet cemetery to the Indian burial ground. Louis goes into his garage the next day only to find out that the cat is still alive. But it's not the same cat that he knew. It changed somehow. But things take a devastating turn when Louis's child gets into a truck accident and unfortunately dies, where he then buries his unalive child. But also like the cat, the child comes back, but different. The child is now evil, a child full of hatred and hunger for bloodshed. But like I said before, when it comes to the movie's endings, they're pretty different. The 1989 version ends with Louis putting Gage back to sleep and his wife coming back to life after being killed by Gage. While the 2019 remake ends with the whole family turning into the undead by the Wendigo. But when it comes to comparing these two movies, I think I like the original better. But they both tell a compelling and heartfelt story about the loss in a family. Next, let's take a look at Child's Play from 1988 and 2019. These films are pretty different. The remake's pretty modern. AI is a big part of it. I like how Chucky can control AI materials in this film. Mark Hamill as Chucky isn't the worst thing ever, but compared to Brad Dourif's work, it's not that memorable. Another difference is that in the reboot, Andy is 13 years old, while in the original, he's 6 years old. I think I like 6-year-old Andy better. Another thing is that in the reboot, Andy and Chucky are actually kind of friends at the beginning. In the original, Chucky was pretending to be Andy's friend. But in this one, Chucky and Andy have some bonding moments, and it kind of goes haywire when Chucky just kills everyone that kind of goes negative with Andy. Chucky kind of has this, if I can't have him as a friend, no one can kind of motive in the remake. And then towards the end, Chucky thinks that Andy betrayed him and then tries to kill him. And then towards the end, Chucky thinks Andy betrayed him as a friend, so he tries to kill him and his mom. And the final act in the Toy Story is really epic. It does a lot of times seem too goofy. But other than that, I don't hate the reboot. But just putting the spotlight on Chucky for a second, he's such an iconic character. Like, Chucky has earned himself 7 movies, a 3-season TV show, and I feel like over time he just became more and more of a pop culture phenomenon. Like, Chucky was bound to have a remake, whether it was good or bad. Alright, now for the last one, let's finally address the elephant in the room and look at Nightmare on Elm Street 1994 and 2010. There is no question that this movie has terrible reputation. If you really want to know how I feel about the movie, then check out my Nightmare on Elm Street movie ranking. But just comparing the two, they're pretty different. Freddy Krueger's design in the remake does not look right. And of course, there's the pedophilia. And this movie goes way too into the pedophilia when it comes to Freddy Krueger. Like, we already knew that there was something going on, but we need all that. But if I'm going to just try and be honest, I'm going to say that the first scene in the diner is pretty cool, and then the scene in the pharmacy is pretty cool too. But other than that, this is just one weird, awkward movie. Everybody has their faults with this movie. But now let's look at the 1984. Along with Chucky and Jason, Freddy Krueger is such an iconic character. I'm saying that term a lot in this video. Freddy Krueger has 9 films, his own TV show that barely any people know about, and tons of merchandise. This film has its couple faults, but other than that, this film is great. There's a new 4K coming out this month, and I just love watching this movie, man. Even though it's not my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street, it gives us a first look at Freddy Krueger. Johnny Depp is also in this movie, which I like his character way more than in the remake. It's also beautifully shot with the practical effects. In the original, the shot where Freddy Krueger has his glove coming out of the bathtub and Nancy's just sitting there, that's one of the most iconic scenes in horror. And the first one is more suspenseful. When the remake is trying to be suspenseful, you just feel like you're watching an early 2000s rock music video. One thing I will point out is that in the poster, that does not look like Freddy Krueger and that does not look like Nancy. I don't know where they were going with it. But I guess my number one complaint about the 1984 movie is that there's not much Freddy Krueger. Freddy Krueger is probably in there for like 15 minutes. But when he is in there, he's easily the best part of the film. I don't mind the side characters that much either. But that's all I have for you today. I really hope you guys enjoyed this Halloween video. But until I see you again, it's Spooky Kai here. Stay scared.